to shape her body if she were to be given the proportions of a Barbie doll. If Barbie was a real person, it is said from Mattel that she would stand approximately 5 feet 9 inches, which is exactly my height, so I find this really interesting. She would have a 39-inch bust, 33-inch hips, and an 18-inch waist. I don't know if anyone remembers Gone with the Wind, but Scarlett O'Hara's waist was 18 inches, and they had corsets, and Barbie does not. It's really scary, and my waist is only like 25 or so. So that's, I don't know, that's really scary. And when you think of all the children who look up to Barbie doll, it's like Barbie's a pretty good role model when you think about it. They have Space Barbie, they have veterinarian Barbie, they have doctors, lawyers, everything under the sun, and you think it's a really good role model, but at the same time, I have lots of Barbies too, and so does my sister, but when you're dressing up, you see all the little parts of the Barbie doll, and when you're surrounded by all those fake images, you get an unrealistic sense of the ideal of beauty, and it's a standard that currently American women cannot hold themselves to because it's impossible. Advertising in society. I had a survey online that I conducted with 87 people. I got my mom to post it to all of her friends on Facebook, and I posted it to numerous college groups on Facebook, so I have a really large range from all across the country, everywhere from about 15 years old to upper 50s, both men and women, mostly women, mostly heterosexual, lots of bisexual, kind of in the range. But I asked the question, advertising has a big, huge effect on American society. And as you can see, a huge majority agreed with that statement to some extent. I asked the question again, advertising and you. How many of you think that advertising has a huge effect on you as an individual? And the numbers increasingly went down. There's still tons of people on the somewhat agree, tons of people on neutral, but the strongly agree, which was real majority last time, completely disappeared. Which is fairly consistent with, especially what Gene Kilburn was saying, what I said earlier. You really don't realize how much advertising has an impact on you because you may not be paying attention fully, but you're still hearing it in the background, or you're still seeing it when you walk to school or to work, etc., etc. And I asked, despite how much advertising, we all see, if all of the people who said it didn't affect them as people, I wondered how much they had been affected by advertising. So I asked if any of them had ever felt prompted or compelled to act or look a certain way because of the media, and 66% of the people polled said yes, which I thought was a very clear majority. I certainly felt that way in regards to either hair, makeup, clothing, like what car I want my mom to drive, really little things. And it starts from such a young age, I want that Barbie doll, or, my brother's like, I want that G.I. Joe action figure, just because it's so prevalent in our society. And now I'm going to take you on a photo media field trip to look at some of my favorite advertisements. There's a disclaimer, there's some kind of, not obscenity, I would say, but stuff that I thought would be blocked on the school Wi-Fi, but it wasn't. Facebook is, but this wasn't. Anyway, this is not one of them. This is what is called dismemberment, when only one part of the female body is shown. Usually it's either, like prominent features that are usually overly sexualized in the media. Like lips, fingers, your rear, midriff, breasts, etc. And what this really drives home is that the woman is really only valued for her certain physical attributes. You never see the whole person. During multiple documentaries I saw that featured actual high schoolers, including lots of my friends, they all say in terms of looking at advertisement, it's all about the body, not about the brain. There's never any kind of cohesive mix. And even when, like I keep going back to Barbie, she has all these different occupations, but she's still always wearing pink, and she's always talking about how great she looks, etc., etc. So this really is driving home to a lot of our younger people that what you look like is really the most important thing, especially when all you see is a perfect collection of limbs and different aspects. You're not seeing the whole person. This person could have what is considered, like not a very flattering any other part of her body, and we would never know. One thing that I thought was really interesting in a documentary called Killing Us Softly, a lot of advertisements actually, they will take a generic base frame for a face, and they will take different parts of a face, and they will compile a person that doesn't actually exist. National Geographic did that for most prevalent person in the world. Some of you may have seen that. It was a pretty cool article. But they do the same exact thing for catalogs and different billboards and stuff. So what you're seeing might not actually be a real person at all. Okay, this is another one. This is a pretty controversial Dolce & Gabbana ad, probably for obvious reasons. It's been suggested that this is indicative of gang rape for a lot of reasons. It's called On the Floor. There are a lot of different versions of this category, many of which just show women, on a bed or on a couch or on a floor. But I chose this one because I really thought it was a bit more dramatic and drove home the actual point. In this, a lot of the point is that the women are shown in a lower place than the man, and the men will be shown, or other women even, will be shown in a position of power. Height is usually used as a status symbol in advertisement, and even though in 5 out of 6 couples, if you had men and women, the man would be taller. That is true. Men on average are taller than women. And I'm not saying that it would be necessary for 1 in 6 advertisements to have a woman be taller. I think that's a bit ridiculous. But when they use it as a status symbol, and especially for Dolce & Gabbana and even Calvin Klein, I didn't put some of their advertisements in because they were a bit more violent, actually. But it's really this is almost, it's not just objectifying, but it's almost dehumanizing. It's like you can do this kind of thing to a woman because they're not really a human being. You can do this because they're a plaything. You probably wouldn't be crazy all with anyone else like that. You certainly wouldn't do that to your friend or anything like that. That's just ooh. Anyway, so here's Woman as Child, and I chose this one because it was the least racy of all of the ones in that particular shoot. Some of them are much worse. Anyway, so this particular advertisement caused a lot of controversy because it passed the censorship in Australia and is now a full ad for Lee Denim. And what Woman as Child is they take a woman and they dress them up as a young girl and give them poses or mannerisms that are consistent with children instead of what would be socially acceptable for a mature woman. Conversely, they do the same thing for young children. They have lots of pageants for little kids, but now it's really a mainstream thing in advertising where you'll take a 12-year-old or even a 9-year-old or so, and you'll dress them up and they'll look like someone who's 20. The power of Photoshop and lighting and costuming and hair and everything. And what that does is it really drives home the point that women can be sexual objects, especially young children from a young age. And what that also says is that a lot of children are getting that message, and especially if they're seeing children in that area as well, they say, oh, I can be like that. And if you're only 9 years old, there's a big problem. It's like, oh, I want to wear lots of makeup. I want to wear this little tight outfit. Well, yeah, maybe that might be appropriate if you were 18 or 25, but definitely not as a 9-year-old. And the biggest thing is you need to be educated when you're doing that, because my mom always said you need to know what message you're sending before you send it, especially in terms of what you're wearing out in public. Okay, so now I'm going to the most exciting part of my project, which is advertising and self-portraiture. So to complete the artistic side of my project, I got into self-portraiture. For senior year project, I was told that we could do something, that we were really passionate about, but we wanted to explore further, or something we had never done at all. And I kind of got the best of both worlds from that. I took something that I really, really love, photography, and I'd never done self-portraiture before. And I knew it would be hard, but I had a lot of fun with it. It's still hard. You have to find stuff to focus on. It's really hard. But I had so much fun. And I definitely think that for this particular aspect of what I was doing for my project in terms of identity was really an apt way to finish my project. So this is another category. It's called the artificial look. And this one's probably the most prevalent and potentially the most detrimental. just like in the dub time-lapse video. You can have everything photoshopped. You know, the people might not even be real people. And this is a mascara ad with Gwen Stefani, and you know, tons of women might swoon over it and be like, oh, I want lashes like that. I want to have beautiful mascara like that. I should go out and buy that. However, there's fine print at the bottom under the more outrageous the better. You can't really read it, but it says, I will read it exactly. Gwen is wearing, no, I can't read it exactly, but I do, oh, I actually have it. Here it is. Gwen is wearing voluminous false fiber lashes in blackest black and is styled with lash inserts. Aha! And there are lots of advertisements that also say, you know, lashes enhanced in post-production. So a lot of times they're digitally enhanced. I don't know if anyone saw the movie The Avengers, but there's a thing called, there's a thing at the end, it's like, no trees were harmed in the making of this film, you know, and I heard a guy on the radio talking about like 40,000 digital pine needles. It's the exact same thing. Only they're using it and they're not disclaiming it publicly at the end. You know, it's the same thing, you know, with medication commercials. They read off all the little side effects really quickly, or car commercials. They read them all off at the very end, so you almost can't understand them. And after the same thing, technically, they have a disclaimer on there, and they're not using it. And it's not super public. So people really aren't going to see it. And for them, that's really beneficial. And so this is what I have for my self-portraits. The first one, I put on a lot of makeup, but what I did for the actual photoshopping, I removed every single freckle that I possibly have, and now I feel absolutely lost. I don't know who I am. And I upped the contrast, and what I wanted to do for the one on the left was really say that, you know, this is like the barest I can be. I wasn't wearing any makeup, my body hasn't been digitally enhanced at all. And so I wanted to I wanted to do them in triptychs where I would have 3 all in a row, and I have the one at the end that is actually going to be there for spacing reasons. I can't have them all like that, unfortunately. The next one, relative size and function ranking. This has a lot to do. This is another Tom Ford ad, same as the Dismemberment ad. And this was also pretty controversial. I don't know anyone who goes around in high heels nude ironing. People in bikinis maybe on like Miss America, but that's it. And relative size and function ranking is kind of the same as on the floor in terms of height as a status symbol, and where the male will usually be shown doing a primary function and the woman a secondary function, or just observing. In this case, it's the opposite, and she is doing a primary function, but the man is just watching, and so she's more of the servant. I have this because the one on the right, I really wanted to emphasize that women can be seen as playthings, and they're also sexual playthings, and I really wanted to make that really clear. It was really, I wouldn't say like super uncomfortable shooting a lot of these, but it definitely put a lot for me on the line, I guess, because I really had to think about all the people that are treated like this every day. My church supports a really cool organization about sex trafficking, and we do a lot of stuff about that, but just thinking about all of that stuff in terms of advertising. And then the one on the right, I have my good friend Robbie Howe, and he is the one who has long hair, and I have really short hair. Comparatively, I put it back in a ponytail. And what I really wanted to do was just emphasize the complete switch of gender roles. And commodification, which is one of my favorites, is where the woman is turned into an object. But wiser. So what I did was completely covered myself with lots of paint. I had a barcode on my arm. The power of Photoshop made it look like I wasn't wearing anything. I was, hint, hint. Yes. And then the one on the left is actually probably my favorite. I really wanted to emphasize just the fact that I'm not an object. The reason I wanted to make it seem like I wanted to not have any clothing visible in the frame is because just for me in the wake of the Trayvon Martin case, I didn't want to be defined by my clothing, which I thought was just really important in terms of the social justice stuff going on right now. And this is what they're all supposed to look like, a triptych, just all lined up in a row. This is licensed withdrawal, where the woman is usually seen in a trance-like state, overcome with emotion, or just kind of observing. So here we have Keira Knightley, and she's symbolically covering her mouth with the perfume. And so what I did was I kind of ditzed myself out, per se. But what I really love about the one on the left is it's actually that scarf right there. I've worn a headscarf before to school, either because I was cold or because I thought it looked really pretty. And I've gotten really, really strange reactions from that. I don't wear a headscarf every day. Some people do. I have friends that do. But I just thought that there were some very weird stereotypes going on with that, and I wanted to emphasize that that was not the same thing. Even if you're wearing a headscarf, you're not a passerby. Some people are just less vocal, but it has nothing to do with the headscarf. And the reason I wanted to do some of these explicit shots of either myself or through the advertising was most of the models that we see are completely anonymous. No one will ever know who they are, but I was talking to one of my friends. Someone out there knows who they are. Someone out there was in their 12th grade math class. Someone was. And I think that it would be so strange if I saw one of my friends in 20 years, on TV, is like, oh my gosh, so-and-so did some crazy thing. And so what I really wanted to do was spark conversation with my photographs, because all of the people that I'm showing them to are my friends, are my peers, are my judges, are my teachers. And I really wanted to say, you know me, I am a student, most of you have some kind of feeling for me, either you care about me or there's some kind of, oh my gosh, she shouldn't be doing this. And what I really wanted to drive home was, every one of those models is a sister, is a daughter of someone. And at the same time, these are the same messages that we're sending to our sisters and our daughters. Ta-da! Yes.
So we have time for quick questions.
Thank you both.
All students who participated in the Keys to Success kiosk on Friday, May 11th, please report to the Film Lecture Hall, room 111, today during third lunch at 12:45. Thank you.
That was not me. The hardest part, aside
the project or the paper.
the project or the paper, actually, it was probably the project, actually. I really thought it would be the paper. I really did. My paper ended up being almost 20 pages long. I had a lot of fun with my paper. I definitely stressed out at the end, but I was just so passionate about my topic. I'm definitely passionate about photography and the actual print advertising as well. I definitely think in terms of learning something new instead of researching and doing my own field work, it might have been a little harder because I had to focus on stuff and just learn. I got a lot of photographic knowledge and support, both from my dad, who's a professional photographer, from Mr. Morris, who I've had classes with for the past 3 years, from different photo students like Maddie Alpolina, Rosa Sokolov, etc.
Why do you think we're at this place in time now with our visuals and advertising, when we've gone through the women's movement, which your mother was probably a part of or on the fringes of in the 60s and 70s? We got rid of a bunch of the ridiculous advertising to some extent in terms of how women were portrayed. How are we back at this, do you think? I'm asking you just speculate.
I did a lot of stuff with that on my in my paper. I talked about how capitalism is really driving the rest of the movement right now. I've asked so many people, even when I met Jean Kilborn and when I saw America the Beautiful, a documentary by Daryl Roberts, or Misrepresentation, features Jean Kilborn, lots of Nancy Pelosi, all sorts of stuff. Condoleezza Rice, it's awesome. That's a really great documentary. But they talk about if all of this stuff is so terrible, why doesn't it stop? Just why doesn't it stop? And I thought that was a really interesting question. Oh, hey, this makes me feel uncomfortable, and I don't like the effect it's having on my children. Please stop. But I really think that we're trapped in a weird kind of cycle. The advertisers, they have, for example, the artificial look. They have something that's oh, you can look like this, even though it's not real, but you can. And, you know, I think to myself, oh, but I don't look like that, and I feel sad inside. But maybe if I go buy this product, I'll feel better about myself. And there are enough people out there that are willing to do that, that the actual advertisers and the marketing companies don't see a reason to change. I had a lot of quotes from editors-in-chief from lots of magazines, from like 17 magazine, Cosmopolitan, Vogue, and all of them said, you know, it's like, I'm not saying that what we're doing is completely right. I'm not saying, you know, like it's necessarily healthy, but at the end of the day, you know, like my magazine needs to be successful, and this is how we get it to be successful. Or at the end of the day, I won't have a job. I'm not running a nonprofit here. And so I definitely think that financially, that's what's spurring us on. In terms of like, I think we should rise up and make a movement and stop it. I don't really think that's feasible. I definitely think that education should be incorporated into some kind of curriculum. I think that this was a really great place in sex ed, especially with the prevalence of eating disorders. I have 3 sisters, 2 of which have struggled with an eating disorder in the past. So I definitely think that it's an extremely relevant topic. Yeah.
Awesome. Well done, Sonia.
Thank you.